Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. Two big topics we are going to tackle today. Of course, Wednesday is the anniversary of the death of Osama bin Laden. We'll get to that in just a minute. But also on Wednesday, General, in Woonsocket, we'll have the latest developments on the cross controversy. A Wisconsin organization obviously is demanding that cross be removed from the World War I monument. That's in front of the firefighters' headquarters in Woonsocket. They're saying it's a violation of church and state. You have spearheaded a rally that's going to take place tomorrow. Expecting about 1,000 people?
I would think at least 1,000 people, perhaps a little bit more than that. But I think the whole premise on what's proceeding here is that there seems to be an attempt to converge the issue of church and state versus a monument. This is a monument. It's a memorial monument having much to do with recognizing and remembering veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice, both during World War I and World War II. There happens to be a cross on that monument, which is obviously indicative of the kind of religion and faith that those veterans had. And nothing more than that. It is not a profession of faith, which I think this organization is attempting to do.
And they've targeted the cross because they know without using the cross as leverage, they have none, correct?
That's absolutely correct. And I think they're confusing the issue by trying to suggest that this is a religious artifact. It is not. It is a historical memorial dedicated to remembering one specific individual, Leclerc, in Woonsocket, who gave his life during World War I, and three brothers from the same family, the Gagne brothers, who gave their lives during World War II. That, in essence, is the purpose and the very meaning of that monument.
You have invited people from all faiths to come to the rally tomorrow.
Absolutely. I've invited Bishop Tobin. I've invited the Federation, the Alliance, Jewish Alliance. I've invited the Imam from the Islamic faith, and Don Anderson representing the Council of Churches here in the state, demonstrating that this is solidarity time having to do with the integrity of the monument as a war memorial and nothing more than that.
All right, you know, it's also coming up too is the prayer banner in Cranston. That has come up as an issue here, kind of mixed in with this whole thing. Reverend Anderson had supported that banner coming down. However, he supports the monument to stay there.
That's correct.
Why the difference?
There's a difference because there is a difference. This is not a religious artifact as it was determined to be. Incidentally, I don't subscribe that the banner should have come down at Cranston West. I want to make sure I'm clear of that. I disagree with Don Anderson as to him taking that stand. Nevertheless, this is a monument. It has nothing to do with a profession of faith other than to demonstrate that's what those veterans and their families wanted on that site 91 years ago, and as late as 1952 when it was rededicated to recognize the Gagne brothers.
All right, General, you're plugged in. You still talk to a lot of veterans. What are they saying about this issue?
The exact same thing. This is the integrity and sustaining the fact that this is a war memorial, remembering those soldiers that made the ultimate sacrifice. It is not a religious artifact, and they're concerned, as I am, that there's an attempt to try to confuse the issue. My concern, as is theirs, and I've talked to literally hundreds of them over the last week or so, that if they're successful, by they I mean this organization, then the next step would be to look at the Veterans Cemetery, which is also on state property, and remove the crosses and any religious reflection on those grave sites. And then the next step after that would be Arlington. Now that's already been tried on several occasions and not successful to date. But that's the main concern. Woonsocket should not be the place where precedence is set for future memorials and monuments to be questioned.
Earlier in the game, we heard Mayor Leo Fontaine in Woonsocket saying that there was an option, the possibility of either moving that monument or that spot that it's in right in front of the fire station to sell it even for $1 or something like that. Yeah. You're not in favor of any of that. You just want it to stay right there.
There are no options. The only option that I would consider is after, if this went to the Supreme Court of the United States and we were ordered to remove that monument, there would be some options there. But that's after the fact, and well, very premature talking about options at this particular juncture. This rally is intended to maintain that monument where it is, as it is, and there are no options beyond that.
Well, those who live in Woonsocket and are familiar with that area know that's their fire headquarters. very busy area, General, to begin with. The rescue is in there. I think their ladder truck is in there, too. What's going to happen with the apparatuses?
I've talked to not only the mayor, but the deputy fire chief and the fire chief himself, and I do believe that there's a plan presently where they will relocate those assets and place them elsewhere for the eventual moving if they have to. But the idea is to ensure we have public safety first and foremost, that we don't want, you know, a rally taking place around a public safety issue and having to move those trucks should the need arise. So in addition to that, the Woonsocket Police has a plan in place, and I do believe they have as an option look at the state police to help them maintain the traffic flow and public safety itself.
So what is going to go on at the rally?
At the rally, it's a very simple, straightforward attempt to educate those that need educating that this is a war memorial. Its intent was to recognize, memorialize a soldier from Woonsocket during World War I, and to further recognize 3 more brothers during World War II that made the ultimate sacrifice. There happens to be a cross on it because that was the faith of those soldiers and the family at the time, 91 years ago, were at the first inception. Incidentally, you know, you brought out the location of the cross. That used to be the highway. Where it's positioned right now used to be a highway, and during the floods of 1950 or thereabouts, they relocated the highway to a different position, a little bit further west, I guess, and consequently the memorial stayed where it was and where it presently is, and they built a fire station adjacent to that. So that's the genesis of how the monument got there and why it needs to be maintained where it is.
Well, the group out of Wisconsin was also talking about the fireman's prayer, too. It was not just the cross and the war memorial. They want the fireman's prayer taken down from the website. The firefighters have said no. That's also mixed in this issue here.
It is, and once again, that's an attempt, I believe, by this organization to muddy up the waters, so to speak. I am in favor of that prayer being maintained on the website, and I'm as vocal about that, in addition to the angel being over at least a facsimile of a firefighter on their website. But that's a separate issue from the maintaining of the memorial as it is where it is. But I'm very supportive of the website being maintained as it is, because that's what the fire department wants, and I see absolutely no semblance of that being a conflict with the Constitution of the United States. It certainly does not profess a religion, which is the litmus test as I understand it, but it demonstrates who the society was 91 years ago, and we need to protect that.
And we have more information on both sides of the issue. Plus, if you want to donate money in order to, if that's going to be possible, to fight this issue in court, you can just stay right here on our website, WPRI.com. We have more information. Wednesday, another big story, General. On Wednesday is the 1-year anniversary of the death of Osama bin Laden. Navy SEALs found and killed the al-Qaeda leader in his secret hideout in Pakistan. Al-Qaeda, allegedly, General, is weaker now than it was obviously at 9/11, but they're still a serious threat. They have moved around now. They're not just in Afghanistan anymore. They've moved their operations to Yemen.
Right. I think the overall organization has been weakened to some extent because of the very elimination of its leadership. But that does not mean it's still a very viable organization. As you just pointed out, it did move some of its resources to other places. Some of its logistics train went to other places. But it is still a very dangerous organization. It has many affiliates, and we need to constantly be aware that there's always the possibility, 100% possibility, that they could strike again. The probability versus 10 years ago is a lot lower today.
Well, the number 2 man, they believe, is hiding out somewhere in Pakistan, and obviously bin Laden got away with it for a long time. He is doing a lot of recordings. He is videotaping a lot of things, sending his message out. Are you surprised with all the messages that he sent out that he cannot be found?
I think it's like bin Laden himself. I think some people know where he is, but there's such somewhat of an attempt to have such a filter between the time he makes these tapes and they eventually get out to some publication that it's almost impossible to trace it back. Undoubtedly, there are people in that area, wherever he may be, that know he's there. Whether the Pakistani government knows it is always a question. They claim they didn't know that bin Laden was there. That's very hard for me to believe in the midst of a very busy place, and the fact that he was there had to demonstrate something. it's ironic that they can tell when somebody crosses their border, and they know exactly where he is, and you can't tell me that they don't know where somebody is that's been there for long term. So it's very hard for me to digest.
The president always said if he had a clear shot at bin Laden, they would take him out. Obviously, they had the clear shot and they took him out. What would have happened if they missed that day?
Well, you'd miss, and you'd try to look at it from a different perspective and a different plan of attack. Thank God we didn't. We were very successful. But at the same time, we've had other operations that were not so successful. And what we did was regroup, come up with a different plan, and exercise that plan into an operation.
You worried about any retaliation on the anniversary?
I'm not sure that any traffic has been identified, any appreciable intelligence or any credible intelligence has been surfaced, but I think I might share something that I heard Mark Janess talk about from the Navy War College yesterday, and I subscribe to that. I think right now we should be more concerned about lone wolves, so to speak, who perhaps share the same philosophy as Al-Qaeda that might attempt to do something on their own. We've seen this in our past. So I'm more concerned about that than I am an organized attempt by Al-Qaeda or some other terrorist organization affiliated with that to have a large-scale attack on the United States.
And quickly, General, we saw what the Navy SEALs did a year ago. Also, too, were injured recently. So they have moved their operations elsewhere. Are you worried that we might thin them out? They were going after Coney, for example.
Yeah. Well, Coney, I'm not sure that that's directly tied into kind of terrorism, but certainly terrorism from the point of view of those that are being abused by Coney. But U.S. Special Forces are involved in that. I certainly applaud that effort. But I'm also concerned that once again, we start expanding our capability into areas that we don't have a force big enough to be able to handle a reversion of what we enjoy in Iraq, as an example. Certainly we have not cleared the breaches, so to speak, in Afghanistan. We haven't seen the end result of that. And there are other places across the Mideast that could be very volatile, and not to mention North Korea. So there's an awful lot of bubbling taking place in a small pot. And when you don't have the resources to be able to put the cover on that pot, we could be facing a terrific challenge.
Okay, and of course we'll stay on top of those two major stories. General, as always, thank you very much for your thoughts. And thanks for watching.